Alright guys, here's my second reaction video to the TCA webinar about the Comp Plan EIS Orca appeal with Jennifer Godfrey.
One interesting thing I learned about the Stormwater Code recently is that they have a table that has rankings of BMPs and best management practices, and it's all the different, impervious surface, pervious pavement, wetlands, ponds, all these things are listed on there. However, I noticed the tree ranking was very low. So that would be a great thing to ask of the Stormwater Code, would be to expand what they have for the categories of trees in their charts. And right now, the last draft I saw doesn't have any, the chart is just not in there. So I think they're working on it. That would be a really awesome request for a lot of people to make so that they have some motivation to actually do it.
So my response to that clip is just to show you guys this nice post from Blue Sky by this city planner actual person. There are entire textbooks for planners and engineers to reduce runoff quantity and improve quality. Let the pros cook. Yes, everything this person said. But also, this is I think reflective of how these people view science. They view science and things like best management practices as political things that you can influence by yelling at the scientists enough. When the scientists already are like, wait, but trees are not the best thing for stormwater. We already know this. Wetlands and that kind of thing are the best things for absorbing stormwater, as she herself mentioned. So, but she wants people to get all together and go yell at these scientists, telling them that they need to put trees higher up in the best management practice list. Just further proof that these people don't actually follow science, but instead try to manipulate it so that they can get their bad ideas platformed. But anyways, this person's post really made me want to make a video just walking you guys through the city of Seattle and showing you what stormwater projects I would do if I could just wave a wand and do whatever I wanted as my dream project for stormwater control in an infilling city.
I decided to calculate the stormwater services provided using iTree on all of the private property trees removed in 2024 using the city's own data. So I looked at each tree's condition in the SDCI records. And so on iTree, there's 7 categories of tree health. So I calculated all the legal removals last year, not including street trees, parks trees, unreported removals, or illegal removals. And it was just about 5.4 million gallons.
She keeps mentioning that this is an underestimate because it doesn't account for other trees that possibly got cut down that she couldn't, account for, but it also doesn't account for any trees that were added or any new natural drainage systems that were put in, or really just any new grass that was whatever, it just doesn't account for that. So can you really say one way or the other? Of course you can make it up, but again, just terrible, terrible science. But I do want to help put into context, even though this number is totally bogus and I have no idea how she got it and also has 1 million sig figs for some godforsaken reason, I still want to give you guys an idea of how much water this really is. So let's do a little example together. So I'm just going to go into Google Maps and I'm going to zoom into every salmon journey naturalist that lives in Seattle's favorite parking lot, which we make fun of a lot because it's so bad. And that is the Fred Meyer in Greenwoods parking lot. So what I want to show you guys is just how much we should be depaving things. And that should be the main way that we are mitigating our stormwater problems versus keeping a few of what they call mature trees. So let's first start by calculating the area of this parking lot. And if you guys have been here, you know that this is not all of the parking that is available for Fred Meyer. They have a whole entire garage as well. So, Good times. All right, so let's get started getting this area. Let's measure the distance. We'll go like this, go like this, maybe like to here-ish. Obviously, this is not all of the impermeable pavements associated with this Fred Meyer, but let's just, do a rough estimate, obviously. We don't need to have a million sig figs like Jennifer Godfrey had. All right, so we got our area here. And now I will copy paste this area into Wolfram Alpha. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to figure out how much runoff is generated from this single parking lot area alone per year. And I'm going to compare that to that 5,039,5.39, whatever number that Jennifer Godfrey randomly calculated. Again, even though I have no idea the validity of that number, let's just, get some ballpark orders of magnitude to understand what's going on, So to calculate the runoff generated by this parking lot, what I need to do is I need to calculate the area of the parking lot by the amount of rainfall that is, falling on average in Seattle in a year. So I looked that up before, and that's 39 inches. So I multiplied the area of the parking lot by the amount of rainfall, that's 39 inches per year. And that's going to give me a volume per year of stormwater generated from that parking lot. There's one more nuance here, which is that I need my runoff coefficient. So I'll just look for the first runoff coefficient table that I find on my search engine. And I can see that for parking, the runoff coefficient is somewhere between 0.95 and 0.97. Let's just go with 0.96. It's a number in the middle. So this runoff coefficient is telling you how much water runs off of that surface when the rain hits it. So you can see that if you have other types of land cover, they're going to give you smaller runoff coefficients than parking. Parking is the worst one, which kind of makes sense. All right, so going back to, so we're going to plug in 0.96. So we got to multiply this number this volume we're getting by 0.96. So let's see how many gallons that gives us. All right, so we can see that this one Fred Meyer parking lot alone generates about 4 million gallons of stormwater runoff per year. So that's almost equal to the 5 million gallons that Jennifer Godfrey calculated for the amount of stormwater runoff that is added from the trees cut like last year or the year before or something. Again, without accounting for any new trees that were planted or any additional natural drainage systems that were installed. All right, let's just do one more so you can see how these numbers compare. My other favorite parking lot, favorite in quotes, obviously, is the one at UW. So let's measure this guy. All right, we got our area here, so let's bring that in to Wolfram Alpha again. And this time we get about 17 million gallons of stormwater per year. So this one parking lot in UW alone generates 17 million gallons of stormwater runoff per year. And again, that's compared to that number that Jennifer Godfrey got, which was 5-ish. And so you guys can see now just how important it is that we depave our city and that we reduce the width of our roads that are all concrete and that we reduce greatly the parking lots we have. That is going to be a much, much bigger effect than saving a few quote unquote mature trees. Okay, so just want to add a little bit more nuance again, because I just love to do that. But with these calculations of runoff from different areas, what I showed you guys was just such a ballpark estimate. So for example, depending on how intense the rain is, you can get really different amounts of runoff. So if you just have a light mist or sprinkle going, say, 24 hours a day or something, like that's not really going to generate very much runoff. But if you have really intense rainfall, like 2 inches per hour or something or more, then you're going to get more runoff from that amount of rain, like proportionally. It's not just exactly like, oh, multiply this area by the amount of rainfall, by the runoff coefficient, and boom, you're done. So it does obviously get you in the ballpark though. Okay, so far we covered sort of the role or maybe the non-role of trees in absorbing our stormwater. Then we talked about the issue of parking lots and roads in generating a lot of stormwater that we needed to pave. But I also now want to switch gears for the rest of this video to talk about really cool examples of projects that we have already done or that we are going to be doing that really help our stormwater problem the most here in Seattle. So to kick us off, I want to introduce you guys to the Swale in Yale, which was completed, I think it started operating in like 2018 or something. Took a little while to construct, but basically what this is sort of like an urban constructed wetland or bioswale, if you will, that treats a lot of stormwater. So it treats 190 million gallons of stormwater per year. And that stormwater is coming from a 435 acre area in Capitol Hill. This is what it looks like. Maybe we can go into Google Earth a little bit, and I just pulled this up. So it kind of looks like this. And it's in South Lake Union. I really love going here to walk and just look at this swale. Like I do that regularly, to be honest. And then I go to Cascade Playground and then I'll eat in South Lake Union somewhere. So this covers 4 city blocks. So there are 4 swales in total, covering those 4 city blocks. And each swale is about 270 feet long by 14 feet wide. And so I calculated the total area over those 4 swales, and that's about 15,000 square feet of swale or 0.3 acres of swale. And again, just this amount of swale, 0.3 acres, can filter 435 acres of area coming from Capitol Hill. And there's a nice map here that shows what that area is. So this entire area in blue in Capitol Hill is filtered by those 4 little bioswales that only take up 0.3 acres down in South Lake Union. So this is the kind of project that is absolutely revolutionary for addressing our stormwater problems. And again, if we really want to go back again to the randomly generated number that Jennifer Godfrey calculated of 5.4 million gallons or whatever, again, this project filters 190 million gallons of water per year. And another thing I want you guys to notice is that this swale, this amazing, beautiful swale that does all this hard stormwater filtration work looks like this. Like it looks like a wetland. It looks like a bioswale. It doesn't have trees. And that's because, again, trees are not the best thing for stormwater. Oh yeah, and then I wanted to do this little calculation for you guys showing you how many inches of stormwater is coming from that Capitol Hill area if we assume the numbers that they gave us. So 190 million gallons of water per year treated by those swales divided by 435 acres in Capitol Hill that gets treated. And I get 16.09 inches. So if we compare that to 39 inches of rainfall on average in Seattle per year, then we're looking at a runoff coefficient of about 0.4, just so you guys can get an idea of what the runoff coefficient might be like over an area like this. Another important stormwater runoff or combined sewer overflow project that I know that a lot of you have already heard of before is the Ship Canal Water Quality Project. So this is gray stormwater infrastructure. So in the field, we usually think of gray and green stormwater infrastructure. And so gray is when you kind of do a big engineering solution that is like a giant pipe that holds water temporarily so that it doesn't overflow into lakes or the sound and stuff. Whereas green stormwater infrastructure is more like projects where you depave or plant more swales and wetlands and that kind of thing. So this Ship Canal water quality project looks like it will keep more than 75 million gallons of polluted stormwater from rain and sewage on average each year from flowing into the Lake Washington Ship Canal. Again, this is just to give you an idea of the orders of magnitude of these numbers. Again, all of them are much, much larger than 5 million gallons that Jennifer Godfrey calculated. All right, the next thing I want to show you guys is some of the natural drainage system projects that the City of Seattle and SPU, Seattle Public Utilities, have been doing. And so I have a few that I want to show you guys that are super, super cool because there's a lot of co-benefits with these projects. Usually you're also potentially getting a new sidewalk when these get installed, and it looks really beautiful for the neighborhood too. So I just wanted to show you guys a few examples. I'll start with this 1/10 Cascade one because I was literally here yesterday walking with a couple of friends, and it's just such a nice example of what can be done with these natural drainage systems. Stormwater flow from approximately 21 acres is managed through this particular system. And this one was done in December of 2002. So one of the older projects. So let's just real quick go into Google Maps to look at it. So let's go to along 1/10 is where this project was done between Greenwood and 3rd. So let's go like here and take a look at what this looks like. So here we are at 1/10 and 1st, and we probably want to walk down along 1/10 to look at the project. So that's over here. So already you see all of this beautiful greenery that the city added as part of this project on both sides. And this sidewalk also got added as part of the project, from what I understand, which is really cool because if you guys have been to this area, you'll know that like there aren't a lot of sidewalks here, but when there are these natural drainage systems being put into place, that's when these places also get sidewalks. One thing that I would point out, and that you'll see in my next couple of examples as well, is that these projects, at least these first ones that were done initially, like in the early 2000s and stuff, up till now, have really been in these wealthy single-family areas. So I'm all for these systems going in everywhere, literally all around the city, but it's interesting to me that these places were the ones that got these things first. All right, next one that I wanted to show is this Broadview one. So this is in a really close area to that first one at 1/10 that I was showing you guys. So this one is on 107th, and this completed in 2005. So let's go to 107th. Right here's where the project was done. 107th between 4th and Finney. So let's take a look at that. So walking along 107th here, we see the same kind of thing where the city has helped plant a lot of greenery and stormwater infrastructure, swales all along here. And there's also a sidewalk, which again, as I've said, there's not a lot of sidewalks in this area. So when you got one, that was probably a good chance that it came just because of this natural drainage system. You can see how nice these swales are, how nice they look, how much greenery they add to this street, and how comfortable it really makes it feel as you're walking down the sidewalk. So again, just so many co-benefits. And for me, I'm just like, there's no reason why these projects should be in these neighborhoods only. Like you could have the exact same projects done in front of apartments, and many, many more people would benefit from those than from these people where there's only a few houses, located along the street where this project got done. You could have hundreds and thousands of families instead benefiting from these beautiful plantings and stormwater absorption mechanisms and sidewalks. A couple more to show you. There's also the Meadowbrook Pond project. This isn't exactly referring to the construction of it, but Meadowbrook Pond. If you guys have never been there, it's super cool. You can see beavers there, river otters there. One time I watched a river otter like swim in circles around and around in the pond for like an hour, and it was so much fun. So Meadowbrook Pond is over here in this area, and it's on Thornton Creek. It's kind of in the Matthews Beach area, or in what some people call Meadowbrook, the neighborhood. I will point out that there's a lot of Thornton Creek Alliance people, TCA people who live in this area and definitely helped advocate for the creation of Meadowbrook Pond and that beautiful community space and that beautiful restoration project. And I am fairly certain, though I wasn't around to know these things back in the early 2000s, I'm fairly sure like the previous two projects that I showed you guys, Broadview, 1/10, were completed for the same reasons, because there were people advocating, people who lived in that area and people who worked on Piper's Creek stuff, advocating for these projects to be in their neighborhoods first. So to me, there's a lot of inequitable distribution of these amazing projects with so many co-benefits, because it was really the people who had the time and the resources and their energy and the money to be able to do that kind of advocacy for their own single family neighborhoods. And so that's why these projects are so prevalent, at least these ones that were completed first, in these single family neighborhoods. So one more to show you is Venema, and this one is at 122nd and 120th between 1st and 3rd Avenues Northwest. They, along with this project, got 1,600 feet of new high quality sidewalk. That's just blows my mind, because in where I live, it's one of the densest areas in North Seattle, and most of our blocks still don't have sidewalks. And when we have gotten new sidewalks, it's been like 100 feet at a time. It's just hilarious. And they're also only the quick build kind, which I'm really grateful for, but just saying, you know, compared to this. All right, so this was completed in 2016. So again, it wasn't just the early 2000s that favored putting these kinds of projects into these single family home, wealthy, rich neighborhoods first. So let's take a look at where this project was at. So here-ish would be probably a good representation. So let's take a look at this. And we want to go along 121st. Again, look at these beautiful swales right here and these trees that they added alongside with this sidewalk. And wow, 1,600 feet of high quality sidewalk. They were not kidding. This is some high quality sidewalk, you guys. Trees on the outside protecting you from the cars. Wow. That's a dream. Wow, look at this. Look at these gorgeous swales. Goodness gracious. And then, of course, again, don't forget to look at these houses. These are the places where we've already invested all of this money to build this beautiful city maintained and managed and added infrastructure. How is that fair to the many thousands of more people that live in apartments on arterials that never get to see beautiful projects like this and probably will never get to see them in their lifetime? Wow, look at that, look at that. Okay, I think we just passed 3rd, so this is where the projects ended. So you can see like, oh, no more sidewalk anymore. Back to these horrible lawns that people have and just like them parking on those lawns, of course. So there's a lot of factors that goes into deciding where to do these projects. I understand that. So for example, you have to consider the level of the water table and like what types of soils are there. And you can't just put these kinds of natural drainage systems just anywhere. But at the same time, like I'm 100% sure there are many places in more dense multifamily areas that could very easily have these projects implemented that haven't yet, where those places that I just showed, for example, took priority because of likely the people who were advocating for them and the bias that the city has had toward making things even nicer in single family areas and putting all of the investment into those areas and completely disinvesting in places like Lake City and Central District and South Seattle and South Park and Georgetown, Delridge, and what have you. But I will say that I do think things are changing, and the projects that are in the works now or coming up soon, in my view, have seemed to be more equitable. So something I'm really excited about is the Lake City Floodplain Park project that is under construction right now. So they bought up this lot, this single family home lot that was on the floodplain in downtown Lake City, and they're going to turn it into a park. And that's going to help restore this area of the Thornton Creek floodplain and also provide actually public access to it, because there aren't a lot of places, to be honest, along Thornton Creek that you can even go and see the water. It's so sad because most of the length of Thornton Creek is trapped inside rich people's backyards, and you don't even get to know that the water is even there or enjoy it. There's one final project I wanted to tell you guys about that I just think is such a good example of how we can do these projects equitably, and really is just a great example of how we should be doing development in Seattle in general. And that is the High Point project and community. So I think this is the biggest natural drainage system project that Seattle has ever done, that SPU has ever done. And it was completed in 2 phases. So first phase in 2005 and then second phase in 2009. And I don't know if you guys have ever been here before, but I have a good friend who lives here. And the first time I went there, I was just blown away by how awesome it was. So as it says here, it is one of the most significant developments in Seattle's history, and it's an award-winning mixed income community and Seattle Housing Authority's largest master planned family community. It is in one of Seattle's most diverse neighborhoods, so the fact that they were able to do all of these natural drainage system implementations within this neighborhood is just so awesome. So as you can see, this natural drainage system within High Point treats about 10% of the entire watershed feeding Longfellow Creek. That is amazing. It mimics nature, from using swales to capture and naturally filter stormwater, to open landscaped ponds and small wetland ponds to hold stormwater overflow. So basically the entire neighborhood processes water just like a forest meadow. That is so awesome. And again, I'm just going to point out here that it does not mention the trees. It's really these kinds of wetlands, these ponds, and these swales that do the heavy lifting when it comes to stormwater. And I'm not saying this to say that we shouldn't have trees. I'm just saying that trees are not the thing that are doing the stormwater things. Trees are amazing to have for people to see outside their window and to walk alongside when they are strolling down the sidewalk. So let's just take a look at some of the spots in Google Maps. So we'll just put in High Point. And one of my favorite spots is this pond. So let's just take a quick look at that. So there's this beautiful pond here that's great for holding and treating stormwater. And then you can see it just like how wonderful all of these streets are, with their really nice street plantings and nice sidewalks and pretty calm, traffic calmed streets here. Another spot I really like is over here, the Commons Park area. So let's take a look at that. Oh yeah, and this bee garden, it's so cool. There's lots of bees being raised there. Yeah, this is that park with the garden. And then you can see just how nice all of the swales and the plantings are. And this was only, let's see, this is from August 2025, and this was constructed in like 2005. So a lot of these trees are only probably 20 or so years old, and they already look like this. So just side note, when people say that you really don't get any benefits from trees unless they're old growth or mature or whatever, like I never know what they mean by mature, but you can see that trees after 20 years already look like this, and that is amazing. So I'm just going to wrap up this part of the video by saying we need way more of these natural drainage systems. We need to put them everywhere, but we need to put them in these equity priority areas first. And we also need to figure out how to build them and construct them and get them through design and community engagement and whatever more quickly, which probably could be said about, any sort of infrastructure that Seattle creates. And there's no reason why they should only belong in single-family neighborhoods. We should be putting all of these kinds of natural drainage systems in front of apartment buildings and dense multifamily housing. And that's not just good for the environment, but that's good for people's well-being in these denser multifamily neighborhoods. All right, that's it. Bye!